The 2.3 billion people around the world with one of these, an Apple iPhone, might have to just start rethinking how safe their digital wallets and their digital money is, because Apple just made one of the most interesting announcements I've seen. They came out this morning and they said, we are actually now going to be introducing a digital ID. And I get it. A lot of people will be thinking, okay, I have my Face ID already linked up to my Apple iPhone. What's different about this announcement? And I think the devil is in the detail. And I want to be looking at the 3 reasons for why I think this announcement from Apple is a little bit of a head scratcher, so to say. So let's dive into this. The first thing I want to look at is the timing of this announcement. Why are we seeing this announcement of a digital ID now? And why are they using the phrase digital ID? Let's not forget, Vietnam just last month froze 86 million bank accounts of those people who didn't have a digital ID. And then we also know what's going on in the UK right now. The UK just introduced a mandatory digital ID scheme, despite the fact that nearly 3 million British people signed a petition announcing, look, we don't want this digital ID. Why are you pushing it through? But the UK government said, we don't care. We are moving forwards with it. And I think all of this is just a part of a broader scheme in the UK. Let's not forget, the central bank of the UK, they wrote this white paper. They said, look at this. If there's a banking crisis, this framework, this 45-page white paper titled Executing a Bail-in, is how we're going to steal your money legally. They actually wrote the framework. They've set the precedent on how to steal everybody's money legally. And this, again, all of this announcement about a digital ID coming in the UK, this is happening at the exact same time that their tax authorities, the HMRC, just got awarded new powers to take money directly out of your bank account if you haven't paid taxes. So the first thing that really makes me start paying attention to Apple's new announcement about a digital ID is, firstly, why are they calling it a digital ID? They already have your fingerprint. They already have your Face ID. Is there something in the exact terminology or the language? And then the second thing that makes me scratch my head is the timing. We've got the UK rolling out a digital ID. At the same time, they're looking for more control over your money. And then we've got Vietnam rolling out digital IDs. My ex-home country of Australia, of course, we're rolling out digital IDs and internet-restricted access on smartphones and all sorts of Orwellian things. I think that Technocratic Surf, I love the name, by the way, kind of nailed it in the chat. Big Brother is coming. And I think this announcement from Apple, it's one that we need to keep on our radar, because let's not forget, Apple is obviously one of the biggest companies in the entire world. They've got a 3 trillion euro market cap. And like I said in the introduction, I wasn't just pulling numbers out of the wazoo. Apple's a $4 trillion giant, and they do have 2.3 million users. Nearly the entire world has an Apple iPhone, which is, again, making me scratch my head. What's going on here? Something else that just kind of makes me pay close attention here is that there's a little bit of a to and fro from these big tech giants and the UK. We saw a lot of these, let's call it, massive tech companies come out and say, look, the UK government is asking us to do things that we simply cannot put up with. Let's not forget, we saw Signal and WhatsApp. I'm going to talk about why they're important in a moment and why them leaving the UK is very big and why Apple decided to do something completely different. Because we saw they had to leave the UK, WhatsApp and Signal. We can see all of the headlines on this topic. Tech giants threaten to quit the UK over the Online Safety Act. We can see all of these big, large companies are leaving. They're saying we cannot do business in the UK because the Online Safety Act asks us to do things that we simply cannot do. We cannot end encryption in our applications. Now we can see Google says, whoa, no, the UK government has not demanded an encryption backdoor for its users' data. But what we can see is Apple came out and removes end-to-end security encryption tool for UK cloud users rather than renege on its privacy commitments to all. Again, this is the big bait and switch here. Apple, for a long time, has said, look, we're going to look after our users' data and privacy. Let's not forget, 2.3 billion people have one of these puppies right here. I've long called it spyware that follows you around. And guess what? They said, look, we're going to look after our people's data and privacy. But earlier this year, they came out and said, yeah, you know what? Let's do a little bit of a 180 on that one. We're going to retract that. And don't forget, this happened very quietly. But this is all a part of a broader trend. Again, let's be very clear. The trend here all across the West is less encryption, less privacy, more control given to the government, more control given to the tax authorities who can now literally rip money straight out of your bank account if you're in the UK and you're a couple of weeks late on paying your taxes. Sorry. This is why all of these massive tech giants are being forced to leave countries like the UK. I found the headline I wanted to show you guys a moment ago when I couldn't find it. WhatsApp, Signal, and Facebook were all talking about having to leave the UK because of these new Orwellian laws being passed. Now, again, this kind of gets me into the next really interesting part of this story. So this headline comes from earlier this year in 2025. Apple removes end-to-end security encryption tool. So if they're completely pulling the rug on their users and saying, yeah, you know what? We used to be for the people, protecting the people's data, privacy, encryption, chat, all of the above. But now they're not. Ask yourselves, if we have governments like Vietnam freezing 86 million bank accounts, if we've got the UK, again, I will continue to remind you of what I think is the most under-talked about article on the entire internet. This is the UK talking about how they are going to steal your money, executing a bail-in, an operational guide from the Bank of England. If we've got Europe talking about the urgent need to channel retail savings into capital markets. Literally, that means that's Orwellian doublespeak for taking money out of your bank account and financing EU priorities. What happens when Apple gets a little bit of a tippity tap on the shoulder from those higher up in governments and other NGOs, non-government organizations? And they tell them, look, Apple, 2.3 billion people have a little bit of a bank account tied to your iPhone. Again, guilty as charged. I use my Apple iPhone to pay for most of my stuff. I just tap it on the FPOS machine when I go shopping and bingo bango. It's quick, it's easy, it's convenience. Now, I just think that the day is going to come when Apple gets that tap on the shoulder and they're told which one of your users doesn't have a digital ID or their biometric data uploaded to the database that we, the government, want access to. Again, this is just speculation. But I think the timing of Vietnam closing all those bank accounts last month, the UK being hell-bent on this Orwellian push And then Europe as well. Again, all of this has happened in the past 30 to 60 days. If we go back about 90 days, the ECB was publishing articles like this. Crossing 2 hurdles in one leap. How an EU savings product could boost returns and capital markets. Look at this big long white paper here. They've got all the fancy pie charts, all the fancy charts. And they pretty much summarize this whole article in the very first sentence. There is now an urgent need to channel retail savings into EU capital markets to finance EU priorities. Salud, mi amor. Girlfriend sneezing. Wife is sneezing, actually. I'll let you guys get your little coloring pencils in and fill in the dots. What is an EU priority? I think John here sums it up nicely in the chat. Jog on, mate. I'm not giving anyone my digital ID. This is why I refuse to live in Australia, the UK, Canada, or any of these overly indebted Western nations. They're all going down the same Orwellian path. They're all looking for more control. They're all giving more control to the government. They're going to continue stripping back encryption, privacy-preserving features for their users. There's a couple of comments in here I can't touch on. I can this one. You will own nothing and you will be happy. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is just looking at the data, looking at the trends. And Apple, the $4 trillion giant, has just said, yeah, sorry, guys. I can read that comment, JJ. Apologies, I can't read your other one. More WEF policies are coming. And Kenny touches on something else important in the chat. We're going to see more and more distractions. Don't you worry. 2020 was just an entree of the long 6, 7, and 8 course meal that they've got planned for you guys in the West. Let me tell you that. I've actually flashed graphene onto an old, what was that phone called? The old Apple phone? I did this years ago. Smells an awful lot like that, mouse cat. Absolutely. And this is all just a part of the broader plan. The EU, I actually don't know the answer to that question, Nancy, whether the EU is elected or not. But I can tell you one thing for sure. The people never voted for a central bank. But guess what they're about to get? Oh boy, this is where I want to take this video next. Because this is all a part of what's happening here. This is all the signal. Because, Chrissy Lagarde, the burnt lobster, came out and gave us a really nice update here on the digital euro recently. This came out last week. We got the video of Chrissy on Twitter saying, oh, guess what? Update. We've got the digital euro is coming. The digital euro is coming. I played you guys the video, the Orwellian video of Christine Lagarde coming out and giving us that little update last week. She's very impressed with her work. I'm trying to find the video for you guys. This is the one I found. I'm going to play it for you guys because I think it's very related to what we're talking about here with Apple. These guys, again, it's all a part of the same movement here. It is control. It is Orwellianism. It is central bank digital currencies. It is digital IDs. It is funny how they planned all of this for 2030. And hey, right on cue, 2025's come along pretty quickly. 2026 better be coming too. Now, again, the other interesting thing about this story is what I'm going to start calling the Great BlackRock Trap. Because a lot of people have been talking about BlackRock recently. They've all been saying, okay, Larry Fink's a good guy now, right? A lot of people are saying, oh, look, Larry Fink's talking about Bitcoin. He's talking about freedom and digital gold and all of this nice stuff. He'd have to be a good guy, right? And I'm still shocked that nobody talks about this. But let's not forget what quietly happened just a couple of months ago is Klaus Schwab was forced out of the World Economic Forum. Larry Fink was appointed co-chair of the World Economic Forum. I've already filmed another video on this. I'm going to put this out this week for you guys. But your boy Larry's been elected as the co-chair of the World Economic Forum. And if Apple was really such a pro-entity for freedom and looking after people's privacy and inherently their bank accounts, what's happening? Why are they not focusing on a form of money that actually does protect its users, which is, of course, Bitcoin, which gets me into this Bitcoin and BlackRock trap part of this video. Tim Cook, he's aware of Bitcoin. Listen to what he said about it recently.
Well, let me ask you a different question, because you just said that you might not do it personally. Do you own crypto, any Bitcoin or Ethereum? Would you play around with this?
I do, yeah. I think it's reasonable to own it as a part of a diversified portfolio. And I'm not giving anybody investment advice, by the way.
When did you get interested in it?
I've been interested in it for a while. And I've, been researching it and so forth. And so I think it's interesting.
Okay. So that's, of course, Tim Cook, CEO of Apple right now. He's interested. He's aware of Bitcoin. Well, why isn't Apple focusing on Bitcoin? Why isn't Apple actually looking after its users? This is what I'm most interested in. Because, of course, I want to play another clip of Steve Wozniak, instrumental in the growth and the creation of Apple. Let's listen to what he said.
Have learned and can put into books methods of doing it. Some countries have even disallowed crypto and blockchain technologies. It can be used a lot. I think it's being used a lot these days to rip people off. I'll start a crypto. I'll hire an engineer that knows how to create it, and I'll get a celebrity to back it up, and we'll put out the Kim coin, Kim Kardashian or something like that. That's a very bad example, but
it's a great example.
It's a great example. It is?
It's a really good one.
Okay, because I don't do social web, so I don't really know the names to use. But we'll call, and I see that happening all the time. And then the founders that started it pull off some millions of dollars right away from investors that say, I want to get in quick and early when it's young, because it's going to grow like Bitcoin. I'll make $1 billion out of pennies. And they jump in, and then it goes to zero. That's the what they called it. It's not the only story. There's some others that have made it for a while for some good reasons. Yeah, so I'm kind of NFTs fall into that category too. The number of people getting ripped off on crypto and NFTs is just outrageous. Now, Bitcoin is safe because it's the big elephant on the block. It's stable.
Right.
Like conservative thinking, you go for the big ones. And
now that clip's a little bit old, but Steve Wozniak here, he clearly is able to differentiate the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. And I think this is the plan here. Kenny drops it in the chat. The reason why they don't care and they're not implementing Bitcoin into all their digital wallets is because their plan is to push stablecoins and CBDCs. This is the ultimate plan. And I think the next video I've got planned for you guys, I think this kind of lines it out. I'm going to let Edward Snowden fill you in on what you guys should be preparing for.
Social credit system. If any of these family photos, if any of your activities online, if your purchases, if your associations, if your friends are in any way different from what the government or the powers that be of the moment would like them to be, you're no longer able to purchase train tickets. You're no longer able to board an airplane. You may not be able to get a passport. You may not be eligible for a job. You might not be able to work for the government. All of these things are increasingly being created and programmed and decided by algorithms. And those algorithms are fueled by precisely the innocent data that our devices are creating all of the time, constantly, invisibly, quietly, right now. Our devices are casting all of these records that we do not see being created, that in aggregate seem very innocent. You were at Starbucks at this time. You went to the hospital afterwards. You spent a long time at the hospital. After you left the hospital, you made a phone call. You made a phone call to your mother. You talked to her until the middle of the night. The hospital was an oncology clinic. Even if you can't see the content of these communications, the activity records, what the government calls metadata, which they argue they do not need a warrant to collect, tells the whole story. And these activity records are being created and shared and collected and intercepted constantly by companies and governments. And ultimately it means as they sell these, as they trade these, as they make their businesses on the backs of these records, what they are selling is not information. What they're selling is us. They're selling our future. They're selling our past. They are selling our history, our identity, and ultimately they are stealing our power and making our stories work for them.
And this is obviously the end game. Most of you guys would know this. This is the way that things are moving. The experts, I don't want to talk about the experts just yet, but I think Technocratic Surf sums it up. Minority Report coming soon. Absolutely true. And this is, of course, answers another question. No, Bitcoin is not safe. I disagree with that. I think if you got Bitcoin in one of these, in a hardware wallet, offline, where a company like Apple can't touch it, I think your Bitcoin is safe. This is why I'm such a big advocate of getting your hands on one of these. This is, of course, a hardware wallet. Once you hold your Bitcoin in one of these offline, these things do not touch the internet. You are safe. You are out of the system. This is the only way you can get out of the system. Again, a lot of people think they can hold gold, but can you cross a border with gold and stay out of the system? No, you can't. If you got more than $10,000 of gold, they don't let you take it through airport security. Same thing with money under the bank. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to take my cash out of the bank and put it under the mattress. The biggest problem is when the government just decides to print money, increase the quantity of the money. The money under your mattress just got stolen from. It got diluted because they just added more money into the system. This is why I continue to say this is the only thing that, to McHoddle's comment, love that name too, in the chat, says you have to hold your Bitcoin in one of these, cold storage, Bitcoin hardware wallet, and if you run a node, you are fully sovereign. Again, if you do want to get your hands on what I've got my hands on right now, this is a hardware wallet from Trezor. This is the Trezor Safe 7. This is the brand new hardware wallet they have. Highly recommend you guys go and get your hands on it. It's brand spanking new. There's less than 200 people on the planet with one of these puppies right now. And as you can see, they first go on sale on the 23rd of November. That is next week. You can pre-order yours today. It's the very first quantum-ready hardware wallet. Again, a lot of people are worried. Oh, these big tech companies like Apple, they're going to create quantum computing and make my Bitcoin weak, vulnerable. They're going to start hacking wallets. I don't think they are. That's why I always encourage you guys, take the first step of Bitcoin, get a hardware wallet. Ledger also dropped a brand new Bitcoin signer this week. They dropped the Ledger Nano 5th generation. This is the next upgrade, so to say, for Ledger Nano S and Ledger Nano X users. Ledger now has the Flex, the Stacks, and the Ledger 5th generation. This is the one I've got right here. As you can see, very nice little touchscreen. The touchscreen is controlled by the secure element chip inside this puppy, so it makes hardware wallet special. Now, again, a lot of people will say quantum computers, it's going to take all my Bitcoin, right? This is actually also why I always encourage you guys to learn more about multi-signature wallets and time-locked Bitcoin wallets. Because obviously things can go wrong. A criminal can put a gun to your head and say, give me that hardware wallet, Luke. I know you've got Bitcoin on it. Give it to me. This is why I'm a big fan of time locking wallets. I get it. It's complicated. Time locking a Bitcoin wallet when you don't know how, you don't have a helping hand, can be difficult. This is why I like what Bitvault has created. They create, as the name implies, a vault for your Bitcoin. That's easy to set up and easy to use. Highly recommend you go and check out what they've created. It's a very simple application that lets you create a time-locked, time-delayed Bitcoin wallet in minutes. Right now, they are running an offer that's going to give you yearly access to the application for 119 big ones. Now, again, for any of you guys who missed the lifetime access deal that they were running earlier in the year, apologies. They only had 42 of those. They got scooped up quickly. They're gone. So now they're running a yearly access offer for 119 big ones. And again, that runs out. That offer expires on the 28th of November. So grab that while you can. This is one of the Bitcoin projects I'm most excited to see because I think it does give us a little bit of protection, a little bit of security from what these big tech companies are doing. Because again, what frustrates me about Apple and all of these big companies, they're aware of Bitcoin. I played you the clip of Tim Cook a moment ago. They know what Bitcoin is. The EU group is not elected. Thank you, Maurice. And this is something as well, Arsen mentions as well. All of these exchanges, they already report most of your crypto activities, quote unquote. I know in Australia, I had an exchange I used to use, and they send all that information off to the government. All these companies will do the same in the future. Apple, Google, all of them, guys. I've acted on the internet as if all of my data is sent everywhere. That's why I always tell you, I follow the rules of YouTube, I follow the rules of Google, and I am not a financial advisor. I say that every live stream. You guys need to act as if that is the case today. Because the future world that is being constructed for us, it's an interesting one. That's all I am going to say. But again, when we go back to here, look at the biggest companies in the world. What do they have in common? They're all big. And they all will be. Before I answer that question, I want to show you something else. I want to show you the treasuries of some of the largest companies in the world. Because this is going to be insightful. I actually wasn't going to show you this chart until now, but it definitely does relate to what is going on right now with Apple. Because while they might be making a little bit of a pivot and a twist and a turn towards a world accurately described and predicted by George Orwell decades ago, they will be forced to take a different pivot very soon. Let's have a look here. Because we can see Apple has the second most amount of cash on the balance sheet. We can see their 2025 estimated net income is going to be over $100 billion. And you can see this also helps to explain why Apple has an enormous treasury. This here is looking at the treasuries of some of the largest companies around the world. We can see Apple's got $131 billion of cash. Amazon, $157 billion of cash. Microsoft, $132 billion of cash. Now, what's interesting about all these big companies, Amazon and Microsoft both had official letters written to their board from their shareholders asking them to investigate what this company at number 9 has done. This is strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy. Have a look at how big their savings are, their cash balances are, $70 billion. Now, if we've got Microsoft and Amazon being forced to investigate Bitcoin, I think it's only a matter of time before Apple is forced to do the same. This is inevitable. And while it might look like they're making a move towards CBDCs today, that move will be short-lived. I think it's just a reality. I want to know what you guys think in the chat. When will the great Bitcoin pivot come from Apple? I think it's going to absolutely have to come one day. Because again, what are the only things we know in the world for certain? Despite Bitcoin currently dumping, we can see if we zoom out here a little bit. I want to show you a chart. Because a lot of people will be watching this saying, hang on a minute, isn't that Bitcoin thing, isn't it dead? Hasn't it crashed? Why would Apple be forced to investigate Bitcoin? It's down 25% from its all-time high, right? I think when we zoom out and we appreciate the trend is pretty clear here. The trend is abundantly clear. When you zoom out, Bitcoin is going up and to the right for absolutely ever. Now, what's interesting about that Maurice says here is the UK's seen Brexit. But what's funny about the UK right now? They seem to be pushing through. Kind of strange, don't you think? Why are we seeing that? I certainly think it's strange. And again, this kind of, I don't want to pop the tinfoil hat on too soon for you guys. But it's very clear. Any of these governments that have the same root issue, that is, they have too much debt, they're going to be forced to go down the path of more control. It's as simple as that. It's not a conspiracy theory. It just makes sense. If you have too much debt, you're going to be forced to engage in activities to pay back that debt, like money printing. Nobody likes money printing. Nobody likes their money being diluted. The government is going to have to increase taxes. The government is going to have to restrict the rich people from leaving the countries. Which is why you see, even though the UK has left the EU zone, they have the same problem the EU has. Too much debt. That's why they're doing the same. Digital ID, savings limits being talked about. It's why you see all the same playbook being rolled out everywhere. You see it in Australia. You see it in Canada. Now, what's interesting while we're talking about the EU is this week, we kind of broke this down in the video yesterday. Some countries have said enough is enough. Luxembourg's ministers talking about Bitcoin. We've got the UAE escaping and quietly increasing their Bitcoin position by 200% this week. We also have the Czech Republic becoming the first country in the Eurozone to put $1 million of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. We've got all of this movement coming out of the Eurozone. It's becoming very clear. Some countries have had enough. We also had the president of Belarus come out this week and say the country should mine Bitcoin and move away from the dollar. They're coming to the conclusion that we've all come to. There is only one escape, and it's to start protecting your money the way it should be protected. Get it off the system. Okay, I think today is a big signal that even the big tech companies who say, oh, we're for the people. Again, who's not seen Mark Zuckerberg's big pivot recently? He's now walking around in gold chains and the cool clothes. He's saying, I'm cool, I'm hip. Yeah, I'm going on Rogan. Oh, I censored all of this content in 2020, but it was just because I was forced by the big evil government. He's trying to appeal to the masses more. Again, don't believe any of these clowns. Apple said for a long time, we'll protect your privacy, we'll protect your data. They've pulled the rug on us. This is why I always encourage you guys. Solutions. Let's be positive. This is the solution, obviously, but it is only a solution if you put it in one of these where Apple can't get it. That's in a hardware wallet. Unless you hold your Bitcoin keys, you do not own the Bitcoin. And again, massive mistake I see so much. People will spend the hour to buy a hardware wallet. They'll hopefully ship it to a location in their country that is not tied to where they live. They buy the hardware wallet, they spend an hour learning how to set it up online, but then they write down their 12 or 24 words on paper. Come on, guys. Paper is not life-proof. You should not be putting your generational wealth, Bitcoin, on something as flimsy as paper. This is why I always encourage you guys to get your hands on one of these. Oh, it's upside down. This is the titanium plates from Stampseed. They make what I think is the most in-need product in the Bitcoin space. Put your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words on titanium. Again, there's a reason why I always talk about titanium and not stainless steel. Titanium is stronger. As you can see, the guys at Stampseed have tested titanium. They've put these plates on the bottom of the ocean. They've put these plates through blow tests. A blowtorch. That thing is 3,400 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hotter than a house fire. A house fire is 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Look at that. No data loss. They've put these plates in a big open fire for 2 hours. No data loss. They've put these plates on hot coals for 2 hours. No data loss. This is why I always talk about these plates from Stampseed. Not only are they made out of the best metal, titanium, but they also have some really cool art designs as well. This I got the infinity divided by 21 million. So again, highly encourage you guys to check out the plates from Stampseed. They're going to give you guys 15% off anything you want to buy with a promo code Luke15. So make sure you take advantage of that. All night hider. Keep it PG. It's a Sunday afternoon stream. My lord. All right. I'll leave you with one final, not PG related comment. Do not trust Apple. Don't trust them. I don't think you should be trusting them with absolutely anything. I think they're coming for your Bitcoin. It's only a matter of time. And even the companies who have said, oh, look at us. We're privacy preserving. We're for the people, the little guys. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to do the backflip. And they're going to be forced to listen to their controllers, the puppet masters. That's my takeaway. Be very careful if you got one of these. That's what I will say. Oh, the wife's in the comments. Yeah, don't trust anyone. Even if you got a ring on. Sorry, honey. All that said, I better end this live stream before I get myself in more trouble. And I'll see you all in the next one. Wait, I didn't press the live button. You're on, honey. You're on. I pressed the end stream, but not the end stream.
Hey, no.
Well, you may as well say something to the people now. All right, I'm going to end this here. We embarrassed Jocelyn. Great job, guys. See you on the next one.